Adrian, I did it! I survived another season without hockey. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Hockey Happy Hour. We are live from the BMW of Atlantic City Studios here in Mount Ephraim, New Jersey. I am Matt Sitsuti, along with the Darkwing, Brian Daly. And we have Rob, the Broken One, Povia behind the board. And today, folks, as always, we are brought to you by Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. Today, it's time for some season previews because the season is still just right around the corner. Why is the season only still just right around the corner? God damn it. Why can't the season be here now? I mean,
hockey all year round.
Yeah, that's what I say.
I'm down for that. Let's do it.
Everybody talking about how excited they are for football. You know what? Fuck football. I don't care about football. The only thing that's good about football is tailgating, and everyone knows that.
Hey, you shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Hey, listen,
you're a Cowboys fan. Anyway.
Gloves are off.
Already. 3 seconds into the show. I love it.
All right, time to mute his mic.
All
He's in
right.
timeout.
All right. So, with that all being said, hockey is right around the corner. It's time for some season previews. We are going to let everybody know about who our division winners are going to be, who the President's Trophy winner is going to be, having that curse carried with them into the postseason. And, of course, we'll be talking about what team will win the #1 overall draft pick, what team is going to be the worst team in the NHL this year. Basically, the biggest shit-sucking garbage you could possibly imagine. We're going to find out which team that'll be come the end of this season. And then we're going to go through our brackets. We're going to go all the way down to the Stanley Cup Finals. I know it's way too early to predict this, but who gives a shit? We're going to do it anyway because our opinions matter and the experts don't. So that's just how it is. So,
Experts aren't fans. That's what we are. We're fans.
that is right. We are fans. That's what it's all about, folks. Experts are just doing this for a paycheck. We're doing this not just for that. We're doing it because, you know what? We have a passion, we care, and we give a fuck. That's why.
It's like that baseball movie with Kevin Costner, just for the love of the game.
Just for the love of it. And speaking for the love of the game, how are you guys feeling knowing that hockey season is almost here? It is almost here. I feel like a crack addict. I need my fix.
With the things that I'm hearing, just coming from around the NHL, I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm ready for puck drop.
Yeah, I know. I cannot wait for it. I just can't wait. So, Mr. Daly.
Mr. Sincerity.
Your team in the West. My team in the East. Well, me and Rob's team in the East. How do you think the Ducks are going to do this year?
Well, that's part of the reason why I'm excited is I'm hearing a lot of positivity coming out of the West Coast, Western Conference. A lot of people, a lot of the experts are projecting Anaheim to be tops in the league.
President's Trophy winning?
President's Trophy winning, tops in the league.
Sure you want the President's Trophy?
I don't want the President's Trophy, but listen, hey, I'll take being the best in the league.
All right. All right. Okay, then. Meanwhile, for the Flyers, it's another year of rebuild and transition and retooling. But you know what? The Flyers are going to be one step forward in that process, and they're going to definitely give some teams some headaches in that wild card race.
Dare I say rebirth?
Possibly rebirth by fate. That is what
to the
it's
lake of incarnation. Yes! Sorry.
All right. So, with that all being said, if you all want to give your predictions for the season, whether it be the Stanley Cup Final prediction or whether it be a division prediction, it could be any one that you want. Feel free to hit us up on Facebook in the comments section as well as join us on the YouTube chat. Please send us out. Send us some tweets too because guess what? We do have a Twitter poll, and that Twitter poll is, will there be a big shakeup in the playoff picture by the end of this season? They might very well be. It may be where some teams will pull sneaky and get on into the playoffs this year. It is quite possible with how these teams are rebuilding in the East and how they're rebuilding in the West.
So many young teams on the rise, and inversely, some old teams on the decline.
Yes, absolutely. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it all down, and we're going to get right on into it, folks. It's time for us to give our season previews. And why don't we start off with, we'll go out west to start this off. We'll save the Metropolitan for last. Why don't we get started in the Central Division since Brian's team is not in the Central Division, we can have an objective look at this.
Then we might as well go right back to the East on that point. Be objective with you.
No, you know that won't be objective.
Probably not.
Yeah, we all know how this is. I'm a fan first. All right, moving on.
Amen.
So,
love it.
the Central Division. The division of the Chicago Blackhawks, the St. Louis Blues, as well as teams of, hold on a quick second, the Minnesota Wild, the Nashville Predators, the Winnipeg Jets, the Dallas Stars, and the Colorado Avalanche. Gentlemen, who do you think walks away with the number 1 overall spot in the Central Division?
Number 1 overall spot in the Central. I've still got to say it's got to be Chicago. I mean, they're steady. They're consistent. They have Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews at the helm of this team. They continue to score. They continue to be a powerhouse. They haven't changed much. They have traded Panarin this season over to Columbus Blue Jackets, but they did bring back Patrick Sharp, who was one of the main pieces in their Stanley Cup runs.
True, although they did lose Nicholas Jarmerson.
I don't think that's really going to affect them either. He was a role player more than he was anything else. As long as they keep Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook, that defense will be fine.
That is true. Those are the quarterbacks of the defense right there. But I'm actually going to do a little devil's advocate, and I'm going to say Minnesota Wild. Because they've been on the rise over the last few years. And, they've been very competitive with teams like Chicago. It's not really too far a leap of the imagination. I mean,
it's really not.
Minnesota was only behind Chicago by 3 points by the end of the year.
I was just about to say, I mean, I don't really see you playing devil's advocate here because Minnesota Wild, they're a team that is definitely on the rise. Their defense is young and talented. Signed Devin Dubnyk, and he was phenomenal for them. And, Bruce Boudreau, he's a great offensive-minded head coach, and he's really helped his team.
And he's great during the regular season. So his history proves it. During the regular season, how many divisions has he won alone with the Washington Capitals?
I mean, they had a 58-point goal differential this year, 266 for and 208 against.
Mm-hmm. Plus, their goal differential was better than the Chicago Blackhawks. It was a plus 58 to a plus 31 to go along with it. That's a huge difference between number 1 and number 2.
It's a 17-point difference.
Number 1 or number 2? I just want to know how much time I have.
So, with that being said, Robbie, who do you got winning this Central Division?
I'm going to go with the Nashville Predators here. I love their defense. I love their goaltending. Pekka Rinne is one of the best in the business, and they've proven that they can score goals this season. I mean, you're going to feel the loss of Mike Fisher, certainly to retirement, but they got other guys that can put the biscuit in the basket, and they had a nice run last year, but it wasn't a fluky run. I saw consistency on all 3 areas of the ice.
It definitely wasn't a fluky run. They're a good young team. They're up and coming. But this is my question for you guys as far as the Nashville Predators go. With Mike Fisher retiring, he was the captain of that team. Who gets to see?
Oh, let's see here. I will say Forsberg.
I kind of like that. Not where my head was at, but I like that. Rob?
It's a tough one, man. Can you give it to a goaltender?
I mean, technically, wasn't Ryan Miller the captain of the – or I'm sorry, not Ryan Miller. Roberto Luongo. He was the captain of the Vancouver Canucks, was he not?
True.
That is truth. That is truth.
So, I mean, you could.
I think – yeah, you could. You absolutely could. It's not general common practice, but it is a possibility, and he is the MVP of that team. There's no two ways about it. If it's a skater, I'm going to side maybe towards a PK Subban. Now that he's been in Nashville for a little bit, he's not necessarily a new player, but he's that type of skilled elite defenseman that's been around the block, has played many years in Montreal, the epicenter of hockey, some may say. Other people in Toronto would beat me to death for saying that. But he could be a possibility. Ryan Johansson, I think it would be the other call for me as well.
You see, all 3 guys are very, very good candidates, but I'm siding with PK Subban. I think he's the guy. He was the leader of the defense. He seemed like he was the heart and soul of that team during the playoffs, believe it or not. Timely goals, great passing. He's just a tremendous leader.
Yes, agreed.
And I think he's going to wind up getting the C.
I don't like him, but he is a tremendous leader.
Hey, listen, I know a lot of people don't like PK Subban. I love PK Subban. I love what he brings to the game.
I mean, PK Subban is an easy choice, but I feel like, why not go young? Why not take a young kid and say, you know what, we're going to give a shot to you? I mean, Forsberg's been on the team for a couple years. It's not like he's a brand new rookie that's fresh out of the junior leagues or the AHL. I mean, to me, that's a safer bet when you go with someone that you can groom when they're young, make them captain, and they'll be captain for a while. You don't really need to worry about, oh, man, what's going to happen when this guy wants his new contract and he wants more money, or what's going to happen when it's time for him to, hang it up. You're like, oh, we don't need to worry about that for years. Well, so that's pretty good if you solidify it.
I mean, PK's not old.
He's not old, but again, though, he may want a lot of money if somewhere goes down the line. He has really good seasons, and Nashville may not have. They may not have the cap space, or, you never know. Life is full of surprises. Maybe Nashville tries to, backload this team on defense, and then they can't afford PK Subban, and then they have to send PK Subban on his way. You don't want to be that team that has to trade your captain, because then you got to go and hunt for the next one.
Real quick, got some comments rolling in on the Facebook Live. Thomas Arnone chiming in a few times here. He's going with please as referring to our poll question. Please, I hope it is. Can't deal with the Pens being there again. Well, I don't think there's going to be much worry about that because I think they're going to be a bubble team this year. I don't think they've done enough in the offseason to really improve. I think they're just on the decline.
They've lost more than they've gained over the offseason. And even Mikey Klinkov, the residential Penguins fan, has said it multiple times. They've lost more than they've gained in the offseason.
That's actually kind of funny because his comment I was going to read next, Michael Klinkov joining in, member of FDN, Pens won't be a championship team again this year. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Lost too much.
I mean, they did lose a lot. I mean, the core of their team is still there. But at the same token, though, they still lost a lot of those role clutch key players that you absolutely need to have if you want to survive the playoffs. You can have your core all day, but you need clutch players.
Frank Vespi chiming in as well. Anyone except for the Pens. And Tom chiming in one more time. Hope Crosby breaks his neck.
I mean,
I could make that happen. I know a guy.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
I know a guy.
How you doing? So, if that does happen, that would be awesome. The NHL will officially have gone up in merit if Sidney Crosby has to leave. It would be the greatest thing ever.
Didn't he break his neck once already, or am I confusing that with somebody else?
No, I don't think he broke.
Or did he just have a concussion issue?
I think he had a concussion. I don't think he broke his neck. If he did, I don't think he would have played.
I thought he had a neck injury at one point. Anyway, whatever.
Don't
matter.
I don't think he did, but either way, not from the lack of trying, though. I mean, a lot of teams have really tried. Just somehow, some way, his bones are not brittle. But they will be.
Brandon Dubinsky last year, cross-checking him in the back of the head.
That was a good try. It was a very good try by Brandon Dubinsky. One of the few things that Columbus Blue Jacket did right. But anyway, so on to the Pacific Division. And why don't we start with you, Mr. Daly? Your Anaheim Ducks are here. The Edmonton Oilers are here. The Sharks are here. The Flames are here. The Kings are here. The Coyotes are here. And the Canucks are here. Good amount of youth and a little bit of veteran taste right there. All rolled up into one in this division.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough division this year. Edmonton building off of a great year last year. Yeah, San Jose bringing back Joe Thornton. Jumbo Joe is a huge part of that leadership in that locker room. Calgary finally bringing in a goaltender in Mike Smith. Los Angeles, well, I got nothing on Los Angeles. They brought in Mike Camilleri. That was pretty much about it. I like Anaheim's chances of winning the division once again this year. I think the standings are pretty much going to mirror what you saw last year with Anaheim sitting on top, Edmonton in second. I think Calgary's going to wind up taking third away from San Jose. I think San Jose takes a step back.
Agreed.
Los Angeles staying in fifth. Arizona's going to stay where they are. Actually, I think Arizona's going to wind up in 7, and Vancouver's going to be 6th in the division.
Okay.
I do like what Vancouver has done this offseason.
I'm going to say that the division is going to go to Edmonton. Not because I want to do that to piss you off.
No. I completely understand why.
I mean, Edmonton, after the year they had, they kind of said, we have finally arrived. they're going to be a team that is going to be tough to deal with during the regular season because now they're starting to play like the team we knew they were going to play as they were starting to gain those draft picks. Everything's starting to come together for them. They made some moves in the offseason, obviously re-signing guys like Connor McDavid, Reinhart, and everything like that. They did a great job of just keeping the core there, putting some additions to it. I really think that, this team is like, well, who's their goalie?
Edmonton?
Yeah.
Cam Talbot.
Cam Talbot. And Cam Talbot's really showing that he's been able to, man the post pretty well.
Very well.
All I have to say is, really, I think if this team just shores up a tiny bit on defense, this team's solidified. It's got to be, if definitely the division winner, in my opinion, because they really are not lacking anything right now.
Spencer Austin chiming in on Facebook Live saying Vancouver has made the smart choice in re-signing Reed Boucher, breakout year this year. Absolutely. I can kind of agree with that. I mean, with the guys that they've brought in to help support this Vancouver team, I could absolutely see Reed Boucher having a breakout year.
Possible. Do you think that would be enough, though, for them to get into a wild card? Because still not
I think
enough.
the West is still a little too strong, especially the top 8 teams in each division. Your West isn't really going to shake up too much. It's just the only thing that's really going to change is maybe you see a team like Vancouver moving forward, but other than seed spots changing, the teams are going to stay the same in the West.
Gotcha. All right then, Rob, who you got in the Pacific?
I'm going with you, man. It's Edmonton Oilers. I mean, they got, if not, I'm sorry, yeah.
Bunch of haters.
But, I mean, it's based on a point you made, though. And I'll get to that in just a second. But to give my synopsis of the Edmonton Oilers, you have arguably one of the best players in the NHL in Connor McDavid. You have solid defense. You got a guy that was predominantly a backup his whole career, show that he could, perform in the spotlight, which is often hard because a key quintessential quality of any goaltender is staying calm under fire and just having almost like elegance, like a classic pianist, and like going back and forth from the post. And he showed that he could do that game in and game out, setting a franchise record for most games, most wins. And this is an organization that had one Grant Fuhr. That's impressive. It's very impressive. I just think that top to bottom, they're the most talented in the division. Because you said that the San Jose Sharks, who have been a favorite in this league in the past, have definitely taken a big step down with Patrick Marleau going to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Well, not even just that.
I mean, it's not just that, but that's my main reasoning.
I agree with you 100%. That's a huge reason why they're taking a step back. But, this is a team that, once again – your star players, your notable players are all 30, 31.
Yeah, they're
and
looking
over.
They're looking at the other side of 30, and that's not a good sign because the thing is too is that they're younger players. They've been pretty good, but have they been great? No. Like they've been solid, don't get me wrong, but have they been earth-shattering? No. They've just been solid, good role players.
Right.
And as good as that can be, that does not help your team in the long run because then, yes, you could find a captain and a role player, but can you find that player that's going to carry you into the playoffs? Possibly not. Depends on what your team is like. Probably
not. And, I mean, if you're looking in this specific division, Anaheim stays consistently young on the good side of 30. Edmonton is their heart and soul of the organization – under 25.
Yeah.
Calgary, these guys, they're another team. The heart and soul of their organization is under the age of 25. Their star player is under the age of 22, I believe. I think Gaudreau turns 22 this year. San Jose is coming. They're not going to be able to keep up.
Right.
Yeah, it happens in sports. You get older, and if you don't keep that youth coming in and out, or you don't draft as well as you could with the youth, or you don't, this is what they should have done. They should have traded a little bit more, got more picks, and just kept that revolving door going. But they never did. They always just kept going back to the players that they had. And not that that was a bad thing. They got to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they won a Western Conference title, and they won multiple divisional titles, but that does hurt your team in the long run.
And that's why Anaheim is always consistently in the playoffs, is they have that revolving door.
Exactly.
And it just keeps going and going. They rotate a player out, they bring another one up. They rotate a player out, they bring another one up. That's why they're consistent.
Yeah.
And if Edmonton can do that, they'll be just as good, and they'll be a Stanley Cup winner. I still think they're going to be a Stanley Cup winner within the next 2 years.
All right, then. So, with that being said, we go through the divisions in the West. I have Minnesota and Edmonton. Rob, you had Nashville and Edmonton. And Brian, you had your Anaheim Ducks and the Chicago Blackhawks.
You guys are on point today. I'm the odd duck out so far.
I see what you did there.
Man.
I actually didn't do that on purpose. That was a good pun for me.
The corniness is rubbing off from me, but that was far better than my puns. Far better. Far better. No, but what I didn't go and say, and I'd like to while we're still in the Western Conference about the Ducks, is that they're number 2 behind Edmonton.
Oh, for sure.
And I think the Ducks represent the West the Cup.
Can we at least agree that your top 3 Pacific Division winners is going to be, in no particular order, Anaheim, Edmonton, Calgary?
Oh,
Agreed.
yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no one else.
Absolutely.
Nobody else. Really.
I just think Edmonton's one more year away from the promised land. I think Ducks have, and you credit players like Getzlaf and Perry when I talk about this in terms of that have been to countless championship elimination games. That gives you the edge when you've played so many elimination games, how to apply the pressure without getting yourself off your game. It's a very fine line.
And Corey Perry, he lost his scoring touch a little bit, but he's done one thing really well, and that's getting under people's skins. And sometimes that's the best thing you can. That's better than scoring a goal.
It's absolutely, man. People in this league have made a living off doing that. Going back to players like Claude Lemieux, Darius Kasparaitis, Ty Domi, as recently for the Flyers, as Scott Hartnell. I think that was right where you're going with that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That was a key part of his game, and that could feed you back into goals because when you get under people's skin, they get off their game, they get mad, and they make mistakes.
And I hope she's still listening, is you can even throw Tom Wilson into that category because he can score, but he's a much better agitator.
Sure.
As you can see, playoffs a couple of years ago. And I will always be pissed off at Wayne Simmons for this. Tom Wilson throws a little bit of a controversial hit. He's getting ready to go on the power play, and what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and you're going to drop the gloves and take your power play away.
Yeah, that's not always the most intelligent thing in the world to do. I understand you got to understand you got to stick up for your team, but at the same time you got to be smart with it. Drop the gloves when it doesn't matter, or when they least expect it. So that way, be like, oh, I don't forget. Yeah, I don't forget and I don't forgive. But with that being said, before we kick it to a break, why don't we do the Atlantic Division real fast, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up with the home Metropolitan.
Oh, okay. All right. I could see what you did there. I dug that. I just felt bad because, I got so engrossed in the conversation that I was like, oh, I'm supposed to keep track of time as the producer. So I just wanted to let you know what you're up against. You sure you don't want to divide it into conferences? I'm cool with that. I'm cool with talking Atlantic.
Well, let's see here. You know what? Let's do it by conference. Let's make this parallel. Let's do it parallel because you know what? If you don't do it, I'm very I can be superstitious at times, and if you do this unevenly, then it screws up the Flyer season somehow. Why don't we do that?
I know you very well. That's why I put out that suggestion. But you're the captain of the ship. Oh, captain, my captain, make the call.
Oh no, let's head to break. Let's do this parallel. We're gonna take Facebook Live off wire, but guess what? You can keep up with us at YouTube. We're not going anywhere. We're just leaving Facebook Live for the moment. So if you want to keep up with us and you want to find out who we picked for the Metropolitan and the Atlantic Division particularly, and you want to find out who our President's Trophy winner is and our worst team in the NHL is, join us on YouTube. You can find the link on Facebook, and we'll have it posted later on into the comments. So this has been the first segment of this edition of the Hockey Happy Hour, brought to you by Liberty Event Rentals, located 2154 East Cambria Street in Philadelphia, PA. Give them a call, 267-314-7368. They got tables, chairs, tents, linens, anything for your party or event needs. Guess what? Halloween is right around the corner, and that's a fun time of year. If you want to have a party, go to Liberty Event Rentals to get you all set up and squared away. And if you need to find them online, go to www.libertyeventrentals.com. This is the Hockey Happy Hour at A2DRadio.com. We will be right back right after this.
Welcome in to the worldwide leader of what? Real talk, A2D Radio.com.
A2DRadio.com is sponsored by the Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030 or email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com for all your sporting needs. The Sports Outlet.
A2DRadio.com is proudly sponsored by Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Tom and Mike from AM and the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's gibsonmayer.com.
Hey, do you need to get your skills in shape? Then contact the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. John Scanzano offers individual, semi-private, and team training lessons in hitting, pitching, catching, outfield, along with turf rentals. The Scanzano Sports Center is equipped with a 31,000 square foot indoor facility, 4 batting cages, and a 4,000 square foot strengthening and conditioning room. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Scanzano Sports Center today.
Fellas, you ever come in from that baseball or football game and your woman won't come near you because you stink beyond belief? Then you need Soap Stash. You should never settle for a generic hygiene product that only covers up the stench. Treat your skin with the best nutrients. feel clean with the only soap you'll need. The highest grade carrier oils are ingrained in all of their products, which are 100% natural and terrific for your skin. No sulfates, parabens, or phthalates, and synthetic fragrance free. Contact Soap Stash for your sample package and give your woman what she deserves. You can contact Soap Stash at 844-890-3197 or visit them on the web at soapstash.com or Facebook at Soapstash LLC. Once again, their number is 844-890-3197. Soap Stash, the new soap standard. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour here on A2D Radio.com. I am Master Sudi along with Brian Daly and Rob Povia behind the board, as well as hosting with us. And this is our season preview of the NHL this year. And this is what's going to happen, by the way.
So let it be written, so let it be done.
Absolutely.
As I say to the atheist.
I'm not an atheist.
Oh, you're not?
I'm agnostic.
Agnostic. There's a difference, right?
There is.
What's the difference?
The difference is you believe in a God and a devil. You just don't believe in particulars. Ah. So you don't follow a specific religion, but you do believe it exists.
I like that. That's far better. I take back my cruel comment. Delete! Delete! Delete!
All right. So, we were going through the divisions, and as we continued, we were getting to the East and kicking it to the Atlantic Division. And no, that is not the division that includes the Flyers, the Penguins, and the rest of them. No, because they decided to change the names of the divisions. That is not the Atlantic Division anymore. It is now the division that contains the Montreal Canadiens, the Boston Bruins, the Ottawa Senators, the Buffalo Sabres, the Detroit Red Wings, the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, now we go to our prediction of this division, and I'll start this one off for a change. And I'm going to say Ottawa wins the division this year. I think Ottawa improving in the offseason. Not only that, too, I think Montreal, yes, they're still a really good team at the end of the day, and yes, they still have Carey Price, but I think Ottawa can compete with them, and I think they will compete with them as the season goes forward.
It's a little bold, I think.
Personally, though, I think Ottawa can do it. I mean, Ottawa is still a really good team, and I think they can compete with Montreal. I know Montreal is still Montreal at the end of the day, but give Ottawa a lot of credit. And when you looked at the division last year, Montreal was a facade in a lot of ways. And they showed it in the semifinals. They really struggled in the semifinals. They did well against the Rangers, but the Rangers themselves were struggling. So, with all that being said, the first time Montreal faced a team that was ready, they were not. And it clearly showed they were not ready. I think that might continue this season. I think that trend will continue. You've even said it yourself. There isn't a whole lot that team has on firepower-wise. Yes, they have a pretty good defense. They have Carey Price as their goalie, but Ottawa's got firepower. They have a pretty good defense. They have some things that are going well for them, and they have Andrew Hammond in goal. In my opinion, I think Ottawa does have what it takes. I think they can win the division.
Obviously, I agree that Ottawa's going to be a top team, but I don't know. I think Toronto is going to make a run for winning this division. I think they're going to give Montreal a run for their money. I mean, yeah, Montreal went out and got a guy like Jonathan Drouin, but the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're a team that's up and coming. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I hear what you're saying, but I think Toronto, I think they might be 1 year away. In my opinion, I think they are. And the reason why I say Edmonton's ready for the division now, not next year, is because Edmonton's been building. Toronto's still building. Toronto kind of, yes, they had a great year last year. Nylander, Matthews, they had a lot of great playing on that team. But I think that they still need to get just a little bit more. on that team, just a wee bit more, and then they're perfect and they're ready to go for the division.
Now, this is where I disagree with you. I don't think that Toronto is rebuilding. At this point, after last year,
retooling.
They're
All right.
retooling, and I think they went out and they got a big piece in Patrick Marleau that's going to really help push his team over the edge.
Possibly, but I just think, like, as much as I like Marleau, and I really like Marleau, I just say, like, okay, yes, he can be a leader in the locker room. I don't know if that's going to be enough. I think honestly, Toronto may need to wait another year. They may take second in the division, but I think Ottawa takes first. I honestly think Ottawa outdoes Montreal, and I think Montreal gets outdone by Toronto. Montreal slips to third. But I just think that Ottawa takes it at the end of the day. Just a little, but just by a hair. It comes down to the wire, but I think Ottawa survives it being in the race.
I see. I mean, I like Ottawa's defense. I don't think Craig Anderson's going to have the year that he had last year. I think Freddie Anderson's the better goalie between the two teams. And I think Toronto just has way, way more talent up front than Ottawa does.
Hey, it's tomato. I mean, it can go either way. I'm not going to weigh in because I think it's another team.
Oh, he's going with Boston.
Are you going with Boston?
I am not going with Boston. No, let me correct. You said?
I said Ottawa. He says Toronto.
You say Toronto. You say Ottawa. I say I'm going to raise you the Tampa Bay Lightning.
That's true. You can't sleep on them.
Well, the reason why I say this is that, and I'm a big fan of Toronto too. Don't get me wrong, and I think the Marleau, I couldn't agree with you more that does put them over the edge. But you look at what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done this offseason. They re-signed Tyler Johnson. They re-signed Andre Palat. They signed Chris Kunitz. That's a big signing. I know he's getting older, but he's another guy that can score in this league. But when it comes down to it, there was one reason and one reason only why I picked this.
Stamkos?
Healthy Steven Stamkos. Correct.
Healthy for now.
Healthy for now. Exactly.
Healthy for now.
See, I picked a very I think you went with the upside team with Toronto. Ottawa is a good upside team, but that's like I could see that happening too. That's like the good safe pick in this division, right? Tampa Bay is the wild card, just like Charlie on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? Wild card, bitches, right? Tampa Bay could go right back to the top of the mountaintop that they left, last season and were once there 2 seasons ago.
They could, but my big question is Andre Vasilevsky. Can he handle the pressure of being the pure number one goaltender? He's done a good job in the platoon with Ben Bishop.
But Ben Bishop's not there no more.
Right, Ben Bishop's in Dallas now.
Correct.
Can he handle the pressure of being a number one? At least we know in Ottawa Craig Anderson can. At least in Toronto we know Freddie Anderson can. We know Carey Price can. That's just my X factor for this division if Tampa Bay does wind up winning a division.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, their offense is still their offense at the end of the day, and that can make up for some nagging problems that they've had. It has made up for it in the past, so much so it got them to the Stanley Cup Finals. They didn't win, but they got there.
No doubt. And they have a good defense. They have Victor Hedman, Braden Coburn. They just brought over Dan Girardi.
Dan Girardi, yeah, the former New York Ranger.
Yep,
Long-time New York Ranger.
I could see it, but I think, another year under Babcock's system, I think these young boys in Toronto, they're going to just be balls to the wall.
All right. Well, we got
50 wins.
Got a 50 wins.
That's a bold
That's
prediction, but they're going 50.
Prediction.
With Freddie as your goaltender, 50?
Absolutely. Freddie's good. Freddie's good.
Ballsy predictions all around here today. It's a theme that's going around, man. We're feeling bold today, aren't we, gentlemen?
I'm feeling very bold today, and I'm very confident in the Toronto Maple Leafs.
All right, well, we got our picks in for the Atlantic Division. We all got different winners here. There's only been one agreement, and that was between me and Rob on the Pacific Division, and that was Edmonton. That's it. We have all had different teams down the line.
That's a good thing.
Did I say Edmonton? I actually meant to say
Vancouver.
Golden Knights. Yeah,
Golden Knights.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about them.
Yeah.
They're in that division now, too.
They are, but they're not going to be winning the division, so I think that's safe to say.
They got a better shot than the Coyotes.
Yeah,
I was about to say
they do have
they're
a
not
better
going to
shot
finish worse than Coyotes.
Yeah, they do have a better shot than them. All right, on to The home division, the Metropolitan Division, the teams of the Washington Capitals, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the defending Stanley Cup champions, gag reflux engaged, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils. All right. Gentlemen, who do we think wins the Metropolitan this year?
Let me lead this one off.
Sure.
Because I think I'm crazy. No, you know what? I am crazy. I'm going to go. I think it's still got to be the Washington Capitals. I mean, they kept most of their team together. They ended up the fire sale, and they are a tremendous regular season team. I think with you saw, and even a Penguins fan in Mikey Kleinkoff commented in that the Penguins are in a bit of a decline. I mean, hey, you win 2 cups. It's hard to maintain, but no chagrin to them. Well, yeah, actually, there is chagrin to them. But anyway, let me get back on point. So the Capitals, I think, are the for sure winner of this division, where I thought I was crazy, and I'm going to say my dark horse to win in this division, New York Islanders. And I'll say this not just because I want to appease one Frank Vespi of the Fix, but I like their team. They kept Tavares, and then you bring in Jordan Eberle. That could be a nice dynamic duo that could really raise the profile of this team. Goaltending has always been an issue, not for lack of talent, but lack of stability. Sound familiar, Flyers fans? Yes, it's true in the island, but I really like some of their younger goaltending on this team, and I think they have a bright future, and that future, if the stars are aligned, could happen as soon as this year.
I mean, the Islanders do have a solid team. There's no doubt about it. They had a very bad year last year, and then they had a resurge at the very last minute. Just was not enough, though, to get them into the playoffs. However, though, they did manage to scrap in 94 points, so they weren't that far behind the New York Rangers, but I mean, it's possible for the New York Islanders. It just depends on how they start their year. If they have a really good start to their season, then they can make things happen. If they have another shitty start like they had this year, I have my doubts with them.
It'd have to go well. Oh, I forgot. Berube went to the Knights. That was their He was one of the key youngsters that I was looking at. They still have a younger goaltender, Guzleski, and I forgot about their tandem there. Their tandem's pretty nice, and Halak and Thomas Greiss. Thomas Greiss had a damn good season last year, an even better fantasy hockey season, and like I said, Tavares, Johnny Boychuk on defense. You still got Andre Ladd. Anders Lee is a good guy in this league. They have a lot of depth players. Like I said, a lot of things would have to go right.
They would. I mean, if they can get off to a hot start and they can make it last and they can get enough wins and manage to take whatever blows they got to take, because that's most likely what's going to happen in the Islanders season. They always take blows of some kind, with it, whether it be injuries or problems in the front office or ownership issues or arena issues like they have now. Point is the Islanders find some way to just have some kind of problem somewhere down the line during the regular season. But if they can get off to a good enough start and they can hold strong in the second half of the season and ride down the hill on the season, they should be able to hold on to a playoff spot. They may even be able to push the Rangers out of fourth and push forward. Maybe even the Columbus Blue Jackets, because in my opinion, the Blue Jackets will regress this year. And if the Rangers take third or the Islanders take third, and I think that'll probably be what the situation is between the two of them possibly.
You guys want another bold prediction? Columbus Blue Jackets finishes last in this division this year.
Well, we'll put a pin in that, because we're going to talk about what the worst team in the NHL is going to be. But nope, good tease, though. I like that tease. All right, moving on. Brian.
Hey, in his defense, he said worst team in the division, never said the league.
But still last place in the division. You're still debating on which one is going to be the worst team in the NHL.
They're a contender.
Well, right. Yeah, they're a contender for it. But anyway, so Mr. Daly, what do you have for the Metropolitan?
They're marked for deletion. Sorry.
I think it's a no-brainer. It's got to be Washington, because, like Rob said, they didn't really do much this offseason. They, you lose Kevin Shattenkirk, but I know there were a few Capitals fans that were not fond of him coming to Washington in general. So that could be a plus. I mean, unfortunately, you lose Nate Schmidt to Las Vegas, and in the expansion draft, but you signed TJ Oshie to an 8-year deal.
Well, hold on. Who were they upset about getting?
They weren't upset about getting, but as his play, they were not really too upset of losing Kevin Shattenkirk.
Well, okay, but it's not his fault that the team just likes to suck it during the freaking playoffs, and it's not his fault that Alex Ovechkin decides to go into hiding. So just saying.
I mean, no one is blaming them. They're just saying. I'm just saying that they were happy to see him go, and that's fine. That's their opinion.
He didn't play as well as he had for the Blues.
Right.
They didn't get their money's worth, and they were upset. But they should be upset because Shattenkirk's a talent in this league, and I think that's where you're going with this.
Like I would kill to have a Shattenkirk on the Flyers. Could you imagine if Shattenkirk was leading our young defense? We would be ready for the playoffs now. We wouldn't even need to debate this shit.
Let's straight up. Andrew McDonald for Kevin Shattenkirk. Straight up. That's a good deal.
Yes.
That would be a good deal to Mr. Doug Fresh from Fantasy Dominance Now.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I get what you guys are saying, but Kevin Shattenkirk just didn't fit into the system in Washington. Not every guy's going to fit every system. It's like any other sport.
Beautiful point, too. Part of that, regression in play, if you're not in the right system, you're not in the right system.
True.
Right.
Very true. But to concur with you guys, I do have Washington as well. I mean, all around the board, it's got to be Washington. This division has really – the only thing that's going to change is who's going to be following Washington in second and third. That's the only thing that's going to be debatable because Pittsburgh is going to regress not as badly as the Rangers would or Columbus would, but the Rangers might even push a little bit forward because of the moves they made in the offseason. Columbus is definitely going to take a step back. Pittsburgh takes a small step back. I don't think they take a major one back. I think probably Pittsburgh is going to be second again. The Rangers and I think the Islanders, like Rob was saying, if everything holds true for them, it's possible they could be battling for third. When it comes to the wild card, that will be where the Flyers, the Blue Jackets, the Devils, and the Hurricanes battle for, along with the rest of the teams in the Atlantic.
Well, jumping back to the Capitals real quick, the only reason why I think they're going to remain the same is their offense hasn't changed much. Their offense has always been good. It's high-powered. Their power play is one of the best in the league. They have Braden Holtby, who I think is the best goalie in hockey right now. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. They're definitely still going to be top 3 in the league.
They have to be. Like Washington is just they're poised to be that team.
They were built really, really well. I still think they shot themselves in the foot a little bit trading away Philip Forsberg, but
yeah, I think that's
it
safe
is what
to
it
say.
is.
Yeah.
But I mean, they may not even be in the same position if they still had him. So
yeah, that's true, possibly. All right, gentlemen. So now that we've gone through our divisions, I have Washington in the Metropolitan, the Atlantic Division. I have Ottawa. Central, I have Minnesota. Pacific, I have Edmonton. Brian, who you got?
I got Washington. I got Toronto. I have Chicago, and I have Anaheim.
All right, Rob.
I have Tampa Bay, Washington, Nashville, Edmonton.
All right, then. So that's the first look at our brackets are there for those division winners. But now it's time to debate, take a quick break from that, and go into the President's Trophy, as everyone likes to talk about. It's been called an infamous curse, and it also signifies the best regular season team in the NHL. Who do you think wins the President's Trophy this season going into the playoffs?
I hate to say it, but it's got to be between Washington and Anaheim. I think they're two of the strongest teams in the league right now.
Well, putting the gun to your head. Who wins it?
It's going to sound homerish, but I think Anaheim. I think they have the best overall team right now.
Just because I felt like it. Anyway, so Anaheim winning the President's Trophy from Mr. Daly.
It was a lose-lose situation for me. If you holding the gun to my head, It's a lose-lose. Pick the Capitals, I'm dead. Anaheim, I'm dead.
Yeah. Now, on to you, Rob. Who you got for the President's Trophy?
I'm torn here, and I'm going to go with the safe pick. I know, boo. I'm going to go with Edmonton. I think Edmonton wins the President's Trophy. I think, like I said, there's...
That's a safe pick?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I think so. That's how confident I am in Edmonton. My risky pick was going to be Tampa Bay Lightning.
That's definitely a risky pick.
Yes,
that's a risky
absolutely.
pick. Yep.
I'm very high on them, too. But I go with Edmonton, and the reason why I say it's safe, I describe my expectations for him this season, but I did say that this isn't their year to go particularly far in the playoffs. I think Anaheim will represent the West. That's the perfect recipe of a President's Trophy winner, right?
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
They have all this regular season success. McDavid has 180 points, 180,000 points, and they do lots of good things, continuing the momentum from last year, and then it's like, okay, that's where they fall, like mid-rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then, you're looking at 2018-19, maybe the year of Edmonton.
Possibly. For me, my President's Trophy winner is Washington. And the battle will be between, in my division winners, Washington and Minnesota. That would be the battles for the President's Trophy. Wow. And really, I just see Washington pushing forward and winning yet another President's Trophy, having not learned a damn thing after the last 2 years, still trying to be the best team in the regular season because that counts instead of putting your name on the Stanley Cup. That will come back to haunt them, but we'll save that for later on in the show. But anyway.
Wait, hang on. I'm a little interested and intrigued by the fact that you said Minnesota will be in a
Well, I think Minnesota will be a very high competitor in the league this year, and not only because they're going to win the division, but because they'll have to be, because they have to outlast Chicago, they have to outlast St. Louis, they have to outlast a lot of tough teams in the Central. But not only that, too, I think they also will compete pretty well against even young teams like Edmonton because of how solid their defense is and how solid Devin Dubnyk's been over the last few years. I just think they can compete. I really honestly think they can.
There's no question for competition because they absolutely can. But just keep this in mind. They were one of the top teams in the league last year going into I believe it was the All-Star break or the trade deadline or whatever. But they just flatlined at one point.
They did, but you know what? I think they'll learn from that. Honestly, I think that they take that lump and they learn their lesson the hard way. They're like, okay, we worked hard. We got second in the division. We were only a few points behind Chicago from taking number one, and we had it until the very end of the season, and we lost in the first round because we went cold. It's a shoot point to say, you know what? That's not happening this year. We are not going cold at the end of the year. We're going to start hot. We're going to finish hot. It's as simple as that. Yeah. I think personally they learned from that mistake.
I mean, I like the prediction. It's a little, to me, it's a little on the bold side. But it's not out of the realm of impossibility because of who their head coach is.
Yeah, Bruce Boudreau. And a lot of times his teams have always come back with better seasons than they had the previous year after having a mistake made, Yeah,
they made a couple moves during the offseason, too, that I liked. I believe they got Jason Pominville back.
They did.
They lost Eric Howla.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm trying to bring up the roster. It's taking forever.
That will hurt them, though, a little bit, losing Eric Howla.
Yeah, good face-off guy.
Not just a good face-off guy. He was just a great presence. I mean,
right.
Okay, so you bring back Matt Cullen. You have a guy like Charlie Cole, Tyler Ennis coming over in the deal that brings back Pominville. And then you still have Michael Granlund, Mikko Koivu, captain of that team, Nino Niederreiter, who's becoming a very big offensive presence for the Wild, Zach Parise. Eric Stahl had a rebound year. It's a possibility. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, I got that reversed. Pominville went to Buffalo. He went back to Buffalo.
Yeah, he went back to Buffalo. Yeah.
Sorry, got that backwards. But I mean,
backwards
the defense is. Hey, listen, a better. Never mind. I won't go there. The defense is still really solid too. Bringing in a guy like Kyle Quincy, who had a good year with the Devils.
I mean, to me, that just seems like. To me, that seems like a team, though, that, in my opinion, could be poised to win a President's Trophy. Honestly, when you look down that lineup, that really doesn't make me go shy of, that prediction.
No, and that's exactly why I can see it. That's why I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, so, I mean, in my division situation, that's what I have. I have Washington competing with Minnesota, but I do think Washington's offense does push them just a little bit further in the goal-scoring department and in the wins department, so I think that that's what gets them the President's Trophy title at the end of the day. But again, we'll get to that on the other side. If anything, I think Minnesota will be happy that they don't win that President's Trophy. In my opinion, they'd be nothing but beneficial. Anyway, now let's take a break from all this winning and let's go to losing. Because if there's one thing that's very fun to look at, it's who's going to win the #1 overall draft pick, just to point and laugh at the really shitty teams of the NHL. So, why don't we get into who will be the biggest loser and the biggest winner in the draft lottery? Let's get started with who we think our last place teams will be in. We'll do this by the division. So, who do we think is going to be last place in the Metropolitan? We'll start it off here.
In the Metro? This is tough because some of these teams have really improved. I think it's gonna be the Devils again.
The Devils? All right. So the Devils will be last place again. Rob, who do you think is taking last place in the Met?
Stick with Blue Jackets. I really think they're going to have a very disappointing year. I mean, you do have stars like Panarin there now and Wenberg on defense, but I just don't think it's enough. I mean, Seth Jones is a good, talented player there. Certainly Bobrovsky keeps them in a lot of games. But what if Bobrovsky were to get injured? Where would this team go? It would be straight down. And I'm not saying that he will, and God knows I hope he doesn't as a former Flyer product. But when you're too dependent on a few guys, that's not really the recipe of success. And I'm just going to give my real reason. Their head coach I just have no respect for. Forget about his temperament or anything like that. I don't like his coaching style. I think it's not proven to be successful in the NHL. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me on that.
He does tend to be a bit extreme at most points.
Abrasive.
But, abrasive is a much better word. It really is. But, yeah, he just expects a lot out of his players. These guys are playing in the NHL. It's not playing peewee hockey anymore. At some point, these guys need to be held accountable for the mistakes they make, and that's what he does.
Well, we have that is definitely a possibility there. I don't see Columbus regressing that badly. I think they're on the outside looking in of the wild card. But they were competitive in the wild card. That's where I think Columbus regresses to. I just don't think they get in. They miss it by just a little bit. They don't miss it by a whole lot, though. But my last place is I'm going to full-heartedly agree with Brian Daly. Those shit-sucking New Jersey Devils will be last place in the Metropolitan.
Oh, God knows. I hope you're right.
I think they did a decent amount to improve, but I don't see it. I think this division, everybody's improved.
Well, they can't seem to make it gel. That's their biggest problem. It hasn't been the lack of star power. It's the lack of making things work. The team has never been able to make things get coherent for the better part of 5 years. And because of that, they've suffered for it every year, in and out. No one cares now at this point because they've just done so poorly in trying to fix this team. All right, moving on to the Atlantic Division. Who will be last place here? I will start this one out, and I will say, call me crazy, I'm actually going to put the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have good players, but I think Buffalo, their team starts to kind of gel a little bit more, and I think that that's what pushes them one step ahead of the Detroit Red Wings. Not because the Sabres are that great of a team, better than the Red Wings. I just think that the Sabres will have a better year than the Red Wings will.
I don't know why you're apprehensive about that. I don't think you could be any more spot on. The Sabres have rebuilt already, and now they're just building chemistry. Red Wings are rebuilding. They're absolutely rebuilding. And if they get a shit-sucky year out of Dylan Larkin like they did last year, then they have no chance to not be out of the basement in that division. Personally, for the sake of our fantasy hockey team, I hope he does have a good year. And inversely, too, we'll talk about that offline.
All right. Offline conversation.
That'll be boring for our listening public. That's why.
You think Detroit?
I think Detroit as well.
Okay. I'm not going to say you're both wrong, but it's going to be Florida.
Oh, I didn't go with Detroit.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't my answer.
So who was it?
I was just saying why I could see his point in terms of the rebuild of your comparison Buffalo to Detroit. You would think, though, because now actually replaying it back in my head, it would seem that I would think Detroit. And I agree with you. I think it's the Florida Panthers. I think they're the worst. They're the worst team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion.
No, I completely and totally 100% agree. You lose a bunch of talented players to Las Vegas. You have 38-year-old goaltender with
Roberto Luongo.
Right, and you have a decent backup in James Reimer.
You lost Marchessault to the Golden Knights.
There's no offensive depth. You're not bringing back Jaromir Jagr, who was a good source of offense. There's nowhere for this team to go. I don't think they did that well in the draft. They didn't really bring anybody in during free agency. They're going down. Detroit, at least, you brought a couple people in. Buffalo, you made a couple trades. You brought a couple people in. I like a little bit of what they did in the offseason. Florida did nothing.
Yeah. All they have is Jonathan Huberdeau and Eric Ekblad. That's it.
Pretty much.
In my opinion, yeah.
Well, I mean, you have Alexander Barkov, too, but, I mean, still, that one player it's not going to make a difference.
But I think we can all agree, though, the slam dunks are one of these two teams, the Red Wings or the Panthers, are going to be last place in this division, most likely. Most likely at this point. So, that being said, before we hit the break, why don't we get to our last place teams in the Central and the Pacific, and we give our number one lottery winner. So, in the Central, I will say the Dallas Stars will be last place in the Central Division. Brian, what say you?
I think it stays put. I think Colorado
Colorado
doesn't move.
Okay. I would say just the talent alone, they might have an okay year, and that pushes them past Dallas. But that's just me.
They still have defensive woes, and
they do. Yeah.
Need to figure out how to get a healthy goalie. Semyon Varlamov is good, but he's
too injury prone.
He gets hurt way too much.
You don't think Ben Bishop makes a difference in Dallas?
As good of a goalie as he is, it doesn't change the team in front of him. A
lot of good goal scorers, though, but defense. And the goalie's only as good as
their defense.
Right, exactly.
And they just lost Patrick Sharp, so take that into account.
Yeah, it was a good defensive forward, right? It was great on taking care of his responsibilities. Last place here, for the sake of argument, I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, not to say that they're a bad team. They got some talent on the team, but I think they have a lot more to go. A lot more in terms of putting together a solid team. I mean, I don't know. I mean, chances are it is probably the Avalanche, but I could see them overachieving. I could see them putting some pieces together or what have you. Jets, I mean, you got Scheifele. I'm Brian Little. I'm trying to run through the roster quickly in my head. Nobody's really
Jimmy Slater.
And then right. Dustin Byfuglien.
Right.
And then you bring in Steve Mason.
Yeah.
So there's a good goalie. There's a good goalie there.
Yeah.
I mean, Winnipeg, in my opinion, out of the three here, Colorado, Dallas, and Winnipeg, I think Winnipeg is actually the better off out of the two, at least in my opinion, only because Colorado just has their problems, and they've consistently had their problems. Dallas, their defense is so bad. I don't think Ben Bishop's going to make up for that as much as he tries. I think Winnipeg's the better off team out of these three. Are they going to make the playoffs? No. But they're definitely the better off out of these three teams, at least in my opinion.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. Colorado couldn't score to save their lives last year. They had the lowest goals for in the NHL. They couldn't get the offense going. I think even if they do get the offense going this year in Duchesne, McKinnon, and Landeskog, two of those three will be gone.
But not only that, too, it's only going to push them past Dallas, and Dallas will take last place. That would be the honest truth. That's all it's going to do, really.
I don't even think they're going to be Dallas is a way better team than them overall, especially offensively. Bold prediction, you're going to see Landeskog and Duchesne gone by the trade deadline this year, especially if that offense does not get sparked.
I don't even know if that's really a bold prediction. If the team really does as shitty as we saw last year, I think that's just logical for the organization to say, screw it, we're blowing it up.
Well, I mean, they're talking about trading Duchesne for I feel like it was the last 3 years, but it's really only been like this season.
Yeah. And then you're just going to see Landeskog leave along with them, possibly McKinnon to go along with it.
Sometimes, you get the coaching change. Coaching change may not be right, but you also, the captain isn't the guy that's the coach's guy.
Yeah, possibly. All right.
So it's possible.
So let's get into the Pacific Division here, and let's dive into who we think will be last place. For me, I will say it'll be the Arizona Coyotes. I'm going to say they're going to be last place in the division. They have a lot of young talent, but I don't think they have just enough yet to make it start to click and get it going. They have potential, but it's not there yet. They still have to work on a few things. before they're ready to go.
Truth be told, this is true. I don't know. As much as I'm down on the Coyotes, I even joked about it before, and I agree with everything that you said. It's kind of hard to imagine that it's not the Golden Knights. You know, I mean, like, just as an expansion team, it's going to take a lot of time for when you take like a bunch of players that have never played together. That's a huge thing. Is that at least in a system that you're rebuilding, there's still a crop of players that have played together for a while, whether it be from the junior level on up or whatnot. These are guys that I can't say with confidence it's all a full squad that's never played a game together at all on any level or what have you, international or how be it. But it's not it's a new team, you know. So, hey, I mean, could they be what's been some successful teams in expansion across sports?
I mean,
Their expansion year?
Yeah, their expansion
I
year.
don't think there's been many.
Not very many.
Well, hold on. Wasn't the Florida Marlins a pretty good team when they first rolled into the MLB?
But their first year, they still struggled. But, yeah, they won a World Series, like 4 or 5 years?
4 years later.
Yeah, you know, Toronto Blue Jays did a similar thing there.
Hockey-wise, it hasn't really been a whole lot of success when it comes to expansion teams immediately.
Probably the one that comes to my foremost mind is the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
You know, but that was still, 11? No.
About 11 or 12 years later.
11, 12 years later. So,
yeah,
it takes some time, just like, you know, never mind.
I mean, it seems like the only one that has any expansion success immediately would be baseball, oddly enough, out of all the sports because, well, football hasn't had expansion in years.
Houston was the last team they brought in.
Yeah, and they haven't done anything. So, you know, there you go. It seems like baseball's the only one that has any expansion success whatsoever when it comes to immediate. As it pertains to the NHL, not really any teams you could think of off the top of your head.
Now, Rob, your point, I can totally see it, and it's valid. But here's the reason why I think Vancouver's going to have a much better year. Vegas.
Yeah.
Their defense is quietly good.
Yeah.
Their defense is pretty solid. Now, the offense, you're probably going to see a couple moves made in the first couple months of the year. But that defense is pretty solid. I like their goaltending with Marc-Andre Fleury. Very much a number one still starting goaltender in the league. Now, with that being said, that is something that Arizona doesn't have. A starting goaltender.
Right.
That is, they lost their starting goalie.
They did. Now, their offense is a little bit better. They lose their captain in Shane Doan.
To retire.
Their defense got a little bit better getting Nicholas Hjalmarsson. They also acquired Derek Stepan for the offense. But still, I don't have a starting goaltender. So I see Arizona finishing dead last in this division.
Yeah, so we got that one there.
Max Domi, he's a good talent too.
He's they have talent on that offense. There's no doubt.
They have some young bucks that are going to cause some crazy stuff, along with Derek Stepan to add on to it. But the thing is that again, like you said, lost Shane Doan, they lost Mike Smith. Relatively overall, still, they have a few pieces they need to put back together before they're really ready to say. And they need to add more pieces before they're really ready to say, yeah, we're going to try.
But wait, they got Nick Cousins.
So it's all good now. They got a former Flyer.
But you guys are right about the goal. I'm just scrolling through the roster. That's why I'm just throwing out random names that I recognize. Their goaltending combo is Antti Ranta.
Oh.
And where was the other one?
Should be Chad Johnson, I believe.
Luis Domingo.
Oh, Domingo.
Yeah.
He used to. I think he used to play. He used to play for the Devils.
Chad Johnson should be on that roster too, because he came over in the deal to send Mike Smith over to Calgary.
Well, nonetheless, with all that being said, though, we go through our last place teams in the divisions now.
No, he's in the Buffalo Sabres organization now, Chad
Is
Johnson.
he? He must have been a free agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, Buffalo's just picking something for backup.
Right.
Anyway, with that all being said, gentlemen, we have our last place teams picked. Now, we throw the ping pong balls into the machine. Flyers still get second overall pick like usual, even if they make the playoffs. But
something doesn't seem right about that statement.
And what? What, I can't enjoy? I can't have fun? Anyway, but I can dream,
this is a fantasy, right?
Yes, this is. So, the number one overall draft pick will be, out of all these teams, out of all these crappy teams, which one walks away with the number 1 overall pick in this year's entry draft?
I'm going to that's tough.
I'm going to say Colorado.
Colorado?
I think Colorado walks away because they need a defenseman very badly. And according to Craig Button, his draft rankings has a defenseman as the number 1 overall player in this draft class. So that would be extremely beneficial for the Colorado Avalanche. So I think they're going to get it.
Radio. You kind of sold me a little bit because Knights did put together a pretty solid defense when I was looking through their roster just now as a refresher. So I'll go with the Florida Panthers. I think they'll get the number 1. Don't get me wrong. There is a lottery effect in effect, so I'm basing this on who I think, and I think this is what the question is, who will have the worst overall record of the 4. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say the Florida Panthers.
I am going to go with the Detroit Red Wings.
That's
For
interesting.
the same logic, yeah.
Not only that, also everyone's been talking about how rigged the ping pong system is. If that would prove it right there. If the Detroit Red Wings have one bad year, dead last, and they get the number 1 overall pick over a team like Colorado, yeah, the system's rigged because then immediately you go to the Red Wings with the number 1 overall pick. Don't tell me it ain't rigged then.
Yes.
But anyway.
It's the biggest sham in all of sports between the NBA lottery, the NHL lottery. I don't get it. Worst team in the league the year before drafts first. Simple.
That's how it should be.
It's the way it should be.
The silly part is, and I love how they say, well, it's to prevent tanking. It's like, well, you could still tank and get the number 1 overall pick even in the ping pong system. So you know what? It's irrelevant.
Flyers were a bubble team last year in the wild card and went up with the 2nd pick.
They did, but that's a rare thing that could happen, and we just happen to
You just never know.
Yeah, you never know, but still at the same time, it's just you have a big chance of getting that number 1 overall pick if you're the worst team. So very hard for. The Devils were the worst team last year, and they still got their number 1 overall pick. So
Who was the worst team last year?
they still were a pretty darn bad team, to say the least.
Can't do any worse than Colorado. Colorado was the worst team. They only had 22 wins last year.
That is true. Colorado kind of did get fucked. So, but anyway. So we gave our number 1 draft picks. Who will pick number 1 for the lottery? We'll leave the losing, and we'll get back to the winning. We'll go into the playoffs. We'll see who wins the Stanley Cup on the other side. But first, let's talk to you all about the Gibson Mayer LLC. They are your certified public accountants, and they are located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. You can give them a call, 215-369-3300, folks. Tax season will be here once again, like it always is. It's always a guarantee, like death and going to the bathroom. So be ready, be prepared, get Gibson Mayer. This is the Hockey Happy Hour on A2D Radio.com, and we'll be right back right after this.
You're listening to the worldwide leader of Real Talk, A2D Radio.com.
A2DRadio.com is sponsored by the Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030 or email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com for all your sporting needs. The Sports Outlet.
A2DRadio.com is proudly sponsored by Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Tom and Mike from AM and the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer LLC Certified Public Accountants, 215-369-3300, or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's gibsonmayer.com.
Hey, do you need to get your skills in shape? Then contact the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com. John Scanzano offers individual, semi-private, and team training lessons in hitting, pitching, catching, outfield, along with turf rentals. The Scanzano Sports Center is equipped with a 31,000 square foot indoor facility, 4 batting cages, and a 4,000 square foot strengthening and conditioning room. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Scanzano Sports Center today.
Fellas, you ever come in from that baseball or football game and your woman won't come near you because you stink beyond belief? Then you need Soap Stash. You should never settle for a generic hygiene product that only covers up the stench. Treat your skin with the best nutrients. Feel clean with the only soap you'll need. The highest grade carrier oils are ingrained in all of their products, which are 100% natural and terrific for your skin. No sulfates, parabens, or phthalates, and synthetic fragrance free. Contact Soap Stash for your sample package and give your woman what she deserves. You can contact Soap Stash at 844-890-3197 or visit them on the web at soapstash.com or Facebook at Soapstash LLC. Once again, their number is 844-890-3197. Soap Stash, the new soap standard. Give me a hell yeah.
Nah, I'm good.
Oh, hell yeah. So I had my...
Thank you, Rob. Fuck you, Brian. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Happy Hour live on A2D Radio.com. And we are brought to you by the Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. Located at 703 Black Horse Pike in Glendora, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030. Email at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com. All right. So, gentlemen, we have gone through our division winners. We have gone through our President's Trophy winners, who will carry the curse into the postseason with them, and who is the worst team in the NHL for this season. Now, it's time to put it all together and create a masterpiece. Who is going to win Lord Stanley's Cup and carry it to the Promised Land?
Really quickly, before we jump into the Promised Land and the hee-haw of the show, I just got a couple news and notes for around the league, and I'll give the Twitter poll results. Since we've last been on, a couple things have gone down. The Jets agreed to terms on contract extensions for Coach Paul Maurice and General Manager Kevin Chevelday.
I think it's Chevelday.
Yes, thank you. So certainly supporting the upper brass there in Winnipeg. Former player George Parros named to lead NHL Department of Player Safety, replaces Stefan Quintal.
That is an oxymoron if I ever heard one. George Parros, that part of player safety.
He was a smart player. He was very well disciplined. He did fight a lot, but he's
still. I mean, you got to kind of funny. That's kind of ironic, don't you think?
Well, I think most of the guys that have been in that position have been guys who weren't afraid to drop the mitts when needed.
Still ironic. Still doesn't change anything that they're inflicted some kind of damage onto their fellow player at some point, yet they're now promoting the safety.
But he also had to get the punishment inflicted on them, too. I mean,
well, I get
George
that,
Parros, in one of his last games, he got knocked out and he smacked the back of his head on the ice.
God damn it, I was just trying to be funny. For fuck's sake. All right, moving on.
You can't be funny.
Nah, not when it's a former Duck.
Oh, okay. I see. Hallowed
Love
grounds.
George Parros.
Well, still, Eric Lindros got in before your guys. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but Timo Solani's a way better player.
Sure. Whatever. Anyway.
So, all right, so the Devils signed Damon Severson to a 6-year contract worth $4.116 million average annual value. The defenseman had 31 points in 2016 and 17. So for all you Devils fans out there, boostering that defense.
Solid move for that defense.
Nope.
They need the help.
Don't booster. Do not booster the Devils. Let them stay shitty.
And last but not least, the Twitter poll, we asked you, will there be a big shakeup in the Stanley Cup playoff picture this year with 60% of the vote? Yes. Wonderful.
Delightful. Let us begin our journey. Speaking of the playoff picture, it is time to go into the hallowed grounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs and who will claim the Holy Grail. Now, obviously, our division winners are already entered into our brackets. So now, gentlemen, we will pick our positioning. Why don't we get started here? Brian, what's your playoff bracket looking like? Do you want to start in the West or do you want to start in the East?
I'll start in the East.
All right, so what division you want to kick it off with?
We kick it off with the East. The Eastern. The Metropolitan.
The Metropolitan? All righty. Who you got in the Metropolitan? What's the spots?
All right, so I got Washington 1.
Okay.
I have the Rangers at 2. I have Pittsburgh at 3.
Interesting. All right. Interesting right there. Well, I got Washington at 1. I got Pittsburgh at 2. I actually have the Rangers holding on to 3. Rob can kill me for that later. And I will have on the wild card, I am going to say, little stick divisional, I'll actually go with the New York Islanders, believe it or not.
New York Islanders, huh?
Yeah, you know what? Rob is right, though. They still have a very talented team. I would love to say the Flyers make it, but you know what? We'll talk about that in a minute. So, yeah, I'm going to say the Islanders take the number 1 wild card spot, and they will go up against the Washington Capitals here.
I don't think the wild card comes out of the Metro.
Neither?
I think both wild cards are coming out of the Atlantic.
Really? Well, let's see here. Yeah, you do have a good point. Now, you know what? Actually, I think I should change that. I'm looking like an idiot. What I am going to do is I'll put Toronto as the number 1 in wild. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We'll save wild cards for later. Anyway, I got my division set up for the Metropolitan. Washington's 1, facing a wild card. Pittsburgh and New York are facing each other. Rob, what you got?
I'm going to go Washington 1. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh 2. And I'll go with the Islanders 3.
Okay. All right, then. So now, let us pick our wild card of who will be facing off with the number 1 division leader here. And for me, as I go down the list here, I am going to go with the no, you know what? I'm gonna actually hold what I said. I'm gonna go the New York Islanders as the wild card to face Washington. So, that's me, Brian. What you say?
Well, like I said before, I think both wild cards are coming out of the Atlantic Division this year. The team that I have facing Washington will be the Boston Bruins, and I think the team that's going to play Toronto, who is going to be my division winner, is going to be Tampa Bay.
All right then. So we got that. Rob, who you got for the wild card?
For the wild card,
Yes.
I think the Flyers have a great shot at getting the number one wild card this year. I think you're going to see a lot more advanced scoring from guys like Konechny and Wheel that puts them back into the wild card. The second wild card, well, let's see. I got Tampa Bay, Toronto, and the Canadiens 1, 2, and 3. No. Scratch that. I'm going to do Lightning, Toronto, Senators 1, 2, 3, and Canadiens are the wild card. They just happen to squeak on and hold the second wild card spot.
All right. So now, my spots are in the second wild card. I have the Flyers winning the second wild card. I think that they do what, Rob, you were talking about, much better scoring, much better progression than what we saw this past season. And they take back a wild card spot. They retake the second wild card spot from their last playoff berth. Now on to the Atlantic Division and who stands to face that second wild card. And I'll start it off. My number one, like I said before, was Ottawa. My number two is going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. And my number three is going to be the Montreal Canadiens. And that will be my setup for the Atlantic. Brian, what you got?
As far as the division goes, I have Toronto winning the division, which is what I said earlier. And then I have Montreal finishing in second, Ottawa finishing in third, Tampa finishing in fourth, Boston in fifth.
All right, then. So your division, your brackets are...
So it's going to be Washington versus Boston.
Okay.
Rangers, Penguins. Maple Leafs, Lightning. Canadiens, Senators.
All right, then. So that's what we got. All right, then. Rob, what you got in the Atlantic?
Yeah, I got the Tampa Bay, Toronto, Ottawa. Sorry, I jumped ahead there a little bit, boys.
That's all right.
And then, like I said, I have Montreal getting the wild card, the second wild card. So I have them slated to face the Washington Capitals in the first round as being the highest seed. And then the Flyers would be facing off against Tampa Bay.
Oh boy. All right. Well, that's an interesting situation right there.
And be one and done.
Into the Central Division. We now switch it to the Western Conference. Brian, who you got in the Central?
The Central, I have Chicago winning the division, followed closely behind by Minnesota, followed by St. Louis, and I have Winnipeg taking that wild card spot.
Interesting. Rob, what you got?
Let's see here. So I got Preds number 1, Blackhawks 2, Wild 3, and the Blues take the wild card slot in the Central.
All right, then. And I've got Minnesota winning the division. I have Chicago in second. I have Nashville in third. And I have St. Louis grabbing a wild card spot as well. So my position is Minnesota versus St. Louis, Chicago versus Nashville. A rematch of last year's first-round competition. Revenge time for Chicago. Moving on to the Pacific Division. What you got there for me, Brian?
Anaheim 1, Edmonton 2, Calgary 3, San Jose 4.
All right, Rob, what you got?
Same. I mean, just flip the order a little bit. I got Oilers 1, Ducks 2, Calgary 3, and San Jose 4.
All right, then. Okay. So for me, I have the Edmonton Oilers winning the division. Anaheim is right behind them in second place. And for third, I'm putting the Calgary Flames. And wild card wise, the winner of the wild card here for me is going to be, I'm going to go with the Central team. And it will, actually, incorrect. I stand corrected. It'll be the San Jose Sharks. I apologize. Moving on. All right, so that's my division set up for the Pacific. Edmonton versus San Jose, Anaheim versus Calgary. It's the exact same situation from last year. Only difference is the roles are somewhat reversed.
Yeah, right.
Mine looks a little different. I like I have Anaheim playing Winnipeg, Edmonton playing Calgary, Chicago playing San Jose, Minnesota playing St. Louis.
Interesting. All right, then. All right, gents, it's now time to have some fun. Who wins the series between these teams? So, how do we want to do this? West to east or east to west?
Don't matter.
All right, so why don't we do west to east? And let's get started with the Central Division. And first matchup I have is Minnesota versus St. Louis. I will say the Minnesota Wild take revenge for last year, and they move on to the second round, and they do it in 6 games.
In my first round, I have Anaheim versus Winnipeg. I have Anaheim taking Winnipeg out fairly easily.
All right, then. Rob, what you got in your first matchup?
I have Preds versus Blues. I have the Preds winning that series. And I have Blackhawks versus the Wild, and I have the Blackhawks winning that series.
All right, then. Next up for me in the Central Division, I have the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Nashville Predators. And I have the Chicago Blackhawks taking revenge on the Nashville Predators. However, it goes to the full 7, and Chicago still manages to squeak out the victory at the end of the day.
I have Chicago versus San Jose, and I have Chicago beating San Jose.
All right, then. That's an interesting series.
Well, this one's even going to be even better. I have Minnesota playing St. Louis to round out my Central Division, and I actually have Minnesota winning that one.
All right. Well, that's interesting. All right, moving on. Pacific Division. In my first matchup, Edmonton versus San Jose, and I will have the Edmonton Oilers walking away with another victory over the San Jose Sharks. This time they do it in 5.
Well, my Pacific Division, my playoff brackets weren't by division. I actually did it seeded the way it should be. I had Edmonton playing Calgary, and I had Calgary losing to Edmonton.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. So let's see here. Put that down. All right. Rob, who you got in your matchup?
This would be in the Pacific, correct?
Yes.
I have Oilers versus San Jose. I have the Oilers taking that series. And I have Ducks versus Calgary. I have the Ducks taking that series.
All right, then. And my matchup is also Anaheim versus Calgary. And I have your Ducks walking away with a win. And I'm going to say in 6, Calgary does a little bit better, but not that much better against Anaheim. And they lose to the Ducks. Moving on.
So I have, moving on to the second round, I have Anaheim versus Edmonton, Chicago versus Minnesota.
All right, in my semifinals matchup here in the West, I have Minnesota versus Chicago. Oh, I hope that series really does happen. That would be a great series. And Edmonton versus Anaheim. And rematch, actually. So, let's see here. In my first semifinals matchup, I actually have the Minnesota Wild defeating and upsetting the Chicago Blackhawks, doing it in a full 7-game series.
Wow. Again, they get ousted. I like it.
They do. The end of an era.
I actually have the same matchup. I have the opposite. I have Chicago moving on.
All right. How many?
6.
6. All right, then. Rob, what you got for your first match in the semifinals?
All right, so let's see here. It should be Preds Blackhawks because I had Blackhawks beating Wild and I had Preds beating Blues. And I'm going to go with the Blackhawks there. I disagree that at the end of an era, I think it was a little pause between dominance. And I hate to say this, but the Blackhawks kind of I don't know, metaphorically represent the New England Patriots to me. And if you notice that, like we talked about last segment, they won those 2 Super Bowls back-to-back, kind of swooned down a little bit thanks to the New York Giants, and, I've come back to the mountaintop again in the recent past couple years. So I think the same for the Blackhawks. I mean, any team we got Patrick Kane on, there's a lot of world of talent around them as well. And, the only question for me is always with the Blackhawks, because I've never been a big Corey Crawford guy, is can he continue to be a spectacular goaltender in this league? Because any day now I expect him to fall off the cliff.
I mean, spectacular he's never really been, but the one thing that he's been the reason why he's still a starting goaltender in the NHL is the fact that, usually come playoff time, he shows up and he is just phenomenal. Obviously, you didn't see that last year being just trounced by Nashville.
Right. Absolutely. They didn't even get a chance. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I think they take care of some past misgivings, and we'll get to that as we get into the later rounds here.
All right, then. So now that we got that out of the way, on to the second matchup for me. I got the Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim wins this matchup, and they do it in 6 games. And they move on to the Western Conference Finals.
I have the same. I got him going back in 7.
All right, then. Rob, what you got?
Same thing, and I refuse to give games at this early juncture.
All right. So now that we got that out of the way.
I'm going to take a knee. I'm going to kneel on the game predictions.
All right, then. So
it's culturally biased.
Okay.
Blue Chips, great movie.
On to the Western Conference Finals. I have the Minnesota Wild versus the Anaheim Ducks. Defense versus offense for me. And you're going to hate me for this, Brian. I'm going to say the Minnesota Wild.
Going to the Cup, huh?
Hold on. I didn't say that. I said represent the West. Minnesota goes on to defeat the Anaheim Ducks, but it does go full 7. This is going to be a classic series between the two, and it's a coin flip down the stretch.
You have Bruce Boudreau finally getting over the hump and getting to the Stanley Cup Finals.
I mean, it's a possibility. You never know what happens any year.
Hey, dude, once you're in, anything is possible.
Anything
I totally
is possible.
agree.
And with a really good team like Minnesota, it's just like having a really good team like Anaheim or a really good team like Washington. It could be that year. You never know.
Truth.
No, you're right.
All right. Brian, what you got in your Western Conference Finals?
Chicago and Anaheim.
Classic rivalry.
Anaheim finally beats them in the series that they needed to beat them.
Finally gets revenge on Chicago.
Finally. That Game 7.
All right.
Blasphemy.
All right. Rob.
That's funny how we worked out to the same scenario. I, too, have Blackhawks, Ducks, and I, too, have Ducks. I said it, that they were going to fall to the Oilers in the regular season in terms of standings, but represent the West.
All right, then.
They're too good. I mean, all the teams in the West right now are really good, and it's tough for me to actually sit here and say that Anaheim could represent the West, but I non-homer move, I really think that they're the team to beat.
Yes.
All right. And now we go to the East.
Sam Steele.
On to the Atlantic Division. And on my first matchup, I got Ottawa versus the New York Islanders. In my matchup, I have the Ottawa Senators actually losing to the New York Islanders, believe it or not. I think the Islanders could possibly upset them, and I think you're going to have an upset in the first round. I think this would be that one. But it does happen in 7 games. It's going to be one of those first-round matchups where you're like, holy shit, I got to watch this series. Who would have thought the Senators and Islanders would steal the show?
So since I have the 2 wild cards coming out of my standings, I'm going to just go straight down mine.
All right, go right ahead.
I have Washington and Boston in the first round. Washington manhandles Boston.
Gotcha.
So Washington will move on.
Okay. And now up. Rob, what you got in your first matchup?
I have the Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. And Washington actually wins a playoff series.
They win one. They just can't win more than one.
That's right.
They can't get out of the semifinals to save their sorry asses. All right.
Ironically, the way I have this projected, it'll be a repeat performance this year.
My next matchup in the Atlantic Division for me is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. And you know what? I think Toronto does it this time around. I think Toronto gets the win, and they actually beat the Montreal Canadiens in 6 games.
My second round, I have the New York Rangers versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I have the Rangers losing to Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh gets the second round. They're going to face Washington again.
All right. Now that got that out of the way, on to the Metropolitan for me. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. Go right ahead.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the other. I'm just going. I did my first versus last. Washington, Montreal, the classic 1 versus 8, where it used to be. And the other matchup for me would be Tampa Bay versus the Flyers. And Flyers. I think I'm being very hopeful for them reaching that number 1 wild card slot. But, again, just not enough progression, not quite yet. Tampa Bay is too strong, and they win that series.
Gotcha. So, for me in the Metropolitan, the number 2 wild card actually would face the top-seeded team in the in the East, and that would be the Washington Capitals. So, the Flyers would have a rematch against the Washington Capitals. And unfortunately, it plays out the same way the last series went. The Flyers are a little bit better this time around, but not nearly as good as they need to be on Washington's level. They lose in 6. Albeit it's a much more competitive 6 than the last 6 that they had with them.
Gotcha.
But the result is the same. Washington moves on. And I got Pittsburgh versus New York. Pittsburgh defeats the New York Rangers in, I would say, I'm going to say 5 games. I don't think they really struggle to beat New York because the Penguins really have never struggled against the New York Rangers in the postseason. So Pittsburgh wins in 5 and moves on to the next round to face, of all teams, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Think about that. That's crazy.
So my first semifinals matchup has Washington and Pittsburgh. Now to finish off, well, I shouldn't say finish off, but my next first rounder is Toronto versus Tampa Bay, and I think Toronto eliminates them.
All right. Interesting. Nice. Rob, what you got?
I have, just to cap off my round 1, I have 2 versus 3 in the Atlantic, Toronto versus Ottawa. I have Toronto taking that series. And here's the interesting one. 2 versus 3, the way I mapped it out would be Pens versus Islanders. Islanders upset the Penguins and knock off the...
That's crazy. And you know what the funny part is? It's historical because the last time the Penguins won 2 in a row, 93, guess who beat them in the semifinals?
Islanders.
The Islanders.
Yeah. That was part of my thought process there. But, like I said, if everything goes right, I had them possibly taking this division. And if Penguins did indeed take a step backwards and really under the grueling regimen that is 2 cups in a row, the reason why that's never been done not never been done, it's been done, but not of recent present 3 times in a row. So, yeah, I have the Islanders upsetting the Penguins here, and they're not done yet.
All right. Now, moving on. Semifinals matchup for me. I got the Washington Capitals and the New York Islanders. And this is where the Washington Capitals find a way to suffer a choking hazard in some way, shape, or form. They get themselves ousted in the second round again by the New York Islanders, and the Islanders will win it in 7 to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
That was the other upset that I was referring to. I have the Islanders not only beating the Penguins, but beating the Capitals too.
Nice.
Representing.
Oh, wow. So you got them going all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals.
No.
Oh, you mean the East, the Conference Finals. My bad.
That's right.
My bad.
Don't worry about it.
All right. So now that I got that out of the way, on to our second semifinals matchup.
We got to give our first ones first. Or are you going straight through?
Oh, you go right ahead. My bad.
I just wasn't sure if you wanted to go straight through or not.
No.
I
Go
got,
right ahead. Go right ahead.
Washington and Pittsburgh in my first one. And I actually have Washington finally getting out of the second round, beating Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow. So finally they break that jinx. They finally break it. Took them long enough. Rob, what you got?
Let's hear. All right, so getting over to the other side of the Atlantic. There we go. So I would have Toronto versus Tampa Bay, and I have Tampa Bay taking the series.
Okay. All right. Me, I've got on my second semifinals matchup the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this one's going to be pretty crazy, but you know what? I say Toronto beats Pittsburgh.
Nothing crazy about that.
They dethrone the defending Stanley Cup champions, and they do it in 6. They don't go to full 7. It ends in 6.
No, I could see that. I mean, they have enough talent. I mean, please don't assume that I'm shortchanging the Toronto Maple Leafs by having the Tampa Bay Lightning defeat them. That would be, okay, I'll put a game to this. It's a 7-game series, and it's like won in overtime in Game 7. These are two. When Tampa Bay is playing on all cylinders and Stamkos is healthy, they're high flying just like Toronto. It's gonna be big. If it worked out like this, man, that would be getting the popcorn ready right there.
Oh, absolutely.
All right then. So, Brian.
I have Toronto and Montreal,
Okay.
and I actually have Toronto dethroning Montreal.
All right then. Do you have them in 6 like I did?
I don't know. That'll be a tough one. I would probably say that would be 6 or 7.
6 or 7. All right. Rob, what you got?
My Eastern Conference Finals would be the New York Islanders versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And again, I'm riding the Tampa Bay train, and they go to the Stanley Cup Finals.
All right then. So now that we got that done, on to my conference finals. In my conference finals, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Islanders. The Maple Leafs defeat the New York Islanders and represent the East to face the Minnesota Wild.
So you have Toronto and Minnesota.
I have Toronto and Minnesota.
Interesting.
Funny. I have Toronto and Washington in my Eastern Conference Finals, and I have Toronto beating Washington.
If it was Toronto, Minnesota, nobody south of the Mason-Dixon line would watch.
Probably not.
It's all about North America, or really North America hockey. I love it.
So my Stanley Cup Finals, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Anaheim Ducks.
And I have the Stanley Cup Finals for me, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Minnesota Wild. And Rob, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the
Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, Anaheim Ducks. So, wow. All right, so let's get started here. I'll give my Stanley Cup Finals predictions. I will say Toronto has a great run, but the defense holds strong for Minnesota. And just enough experience. Devin Dubnyk does a great job in net. Zach Parise and the offense do what they got to do. And they squeak out a Stanley Cup Finals win, the very first one for Minnesota, in 7. But, hey, Toronto's the future, but Minnesota's time now.
Your time is over. My time is now. I heard
What?
that somewhere.
I tried to avoid that because, you know.
Y'all can't see me. My time is now. And I say that because the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks will be mighty again, raising the 2017 Stanley Cup, beating the Toronto Maple Leafs with their physicality. And this is actually kind of a fitting Stanley Cup final because it's Jonathan Gibson,
Freddie Anderson. Yeah, 2 former Ducks, and they were actually.
That'd be a very cool storyline.
That would be a great storyline, but I think, Jonathan Gibson's going to show why Anaheim chose him over Freddie Anderson, and Anaheim's going to win.
All right.
They're just a more physical team.
And, Rob, you had who winning your Stanley Cup Finals?
I have it Tampa Bay versus Anaheim Ducks. And get ready to pop your champagne, Brian. It's the Ducks time.
Believe me, I've been having champagne ready since I turned 21.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
So that's what we got. I have my Stanley Cup Finals winners are the Minnesota Wild for the very first time in their history. You have the Anaheim Ducks, your beloved Ducks, winning their second Stanley Cup in history. And, Rob, you've also got Brian's Anaheim Ducks winning their second Stanley Cup in franchise history. So
we cannot continue to let LA have the most Stanley Cups in Southern California. Got to change it.
If my scenario plays out, they still do. But Minnesota gets their first one. By the way, that's a crying shame. How does Los Angeles have 2 Stanley Cups and Minnesota doesn't even have 1? They have 0 to their name. And Minnesota's more known for hockey than LA's known for anything besides fake people in Hollywood.
Listen, it just goes to show you, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. You just got to get in first.
True. But you know what? Hey, the Stanley Cup Finals, Stanley Cup playoffs, man, it's exciting. This whole season preview was exciting to go through. But one thing I do want to bring up before we round this show off and end it on last call, one thing I want to talk to everybody about is some Flyer stuff. Yes, because we are still a Flyer show at the end of the day, as much as we love hockey in general.
We are?
Yes, but a couple of little news and bulletins for the Flyers that came through on the – I got good news and bad news for the Flyers fans. The bad news is, since I'm pretty sure you want me to give you that first, Anthony Stolarz is unfortunately out with surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee. Therefore, he's out indefinitely. Most likely, we will not see Stoley in a Flyers jersey at all this season.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, I know. It sucks, right?
God damn it. Damn it, Charlie.
Who's Charlie?
Another Always Sunny in Philly. I felt like Sweet D there going, God damn it.
I mean, it works out because it's a Philly-based show. It works. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, true. But, yeah, so unfortunately, Stoley the goalie is not going to be so holy in this season. He's going to wind up sitting on the bench.
And just all the more reason why they signed Brian
Elliott. He's not going to be on the bench.
Elliott.
He's going to be in the press box.
Yeah, that's right.
On his crutches.
I mean, people wondered, and some on the show, that why would you sign Brian Elliott and not give Stoley a chance? Well, obviously there were poor reports on that knee.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they had been able to say this earlier, this would have not been a big case. And I was like, okay, so it makes logical sense why you go and get a Brian Elliott. But
they must just not like the durability.
Yeah.
I guess maybe he's an injury-prone guy.
Oh, hopefully not. Hopefully not, because that's the last thing we need is an injury-prone, possible starting prospect goalie. That's the last thing we need.
Oh, agreed.
All right, but here is some good news on top of all of that. Speaking of injuries, coming off of the injury is Nolan Patrick, who is saying he is 100% following his offseason surgery and has been skating very, very well in the Flyers skate zone. So, as we look into this training camp, something to look forward to. Possibly Nolan Patrick starting on a Flyers roster. Could it possibly happen? Well, if he's as 100% as he says he is, that prediction may come true. He may be a second-line center for this team come the start of the season.
What's funny is this is great news for the organization, great news for us fans. You know who it's bad news for?
Who?
It's bad news for Claude Giroux. And you'd say, why? Why wouldn't you want like good talent around him? Nolan Patrick is going to take your job, buddy. Get your act together.
Well,
all I'm saying.
Maybe not this year, but if he does keep it up.
No, long term, yeah.
It's possible.
Oh, yeah.
It's possible.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I still don't think Giroux's going to be gone.
Not gone from the team, gone from the first line. Nolan Patrick will be this team's #1 center.
Eventually.
Yeah, eventually. I'm not saying anytime this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just seeking clarification.
I'm speaking very abruptly and not.
You are. That's kind of why I was
yeah.
like, wait, what?
Yep.
Well, this is actually even quoted from Nolan Patrick as he said this. He said, when I had my first surgery, I felt the pain in the first skate back. My first skate back here, when I skated after development camp, I had no pain at all, and just conditioning and getting my feet back under me. It was done right the second time, and I'm happy to be done with that. It's quite a while with that injury, but happy to put it behind me now. So
no pain.
Motivation.
No pain.
Motivation.
No pain.
Folks. That is right. Motivation coming in here, hoping to make the Flyers roster after getting drafted this past offseason.
Well, you figured you started off the show with a Rocky reference. I'd end the show with a Rocky reference. No pain.
No pain.
No pain.
No pain. That's right. So, oh, man, this is exciting now to hear this news. It's very exciting. For me, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's exciting for every other Flyers
Well,
fan.
yeah, I mean, certainly you thought that this could run into this season and really like Shanghai as camp hopes and things of that nature. Because I mean, just going off the top of my head, I believe he only played 33 to 35 games for the Brandon Wheat Kings, coming off of that sports hernia surgery, which really now is almost going on 2 years removed before that season. So, you know, it's great news because the quicker he gets into the swing of things, the quicker his development comes and the quicker we get to the long-term projections that I have so highly for him. Yeah, you know, I mean, just to get more proven goal scorers that could also be quality playmakers on this team is just going to help this team rebound well and put last year's awful season in the rearview mirror.
Absolutely. So, gents, we predicted our season. We gave our Stanley Cup champions. Honestly, let's just do this for the shits and giggles of it. Who do you think's most likely comes true? Do you think the Ducks win or do you think the Wild win?
I think it's going to be more likely that the Ducks win. I like the Wild. I like the team that they have, but Bruce Boudreau, he's not a good playoff coach. He can get you to a certain point, but after that, it just breaks down. It's just his system. His great regular season head coach, like I said. He's got a track record in the postseason to just break down at one point.
That's true, but at the same time, though, I mean, if you get the right team at the right place, right time, and everything goes the way you need it to go, it could happen.
It could absolutely happen.
It's not, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the Bruce Boudreau thing is hanging overhead, and that prediction's a bold one because of Bruce Boudreau. But I still say this. A curse can be broken at any point. It can be broken at any year, any given year. Think about it. The Ducks, yes, it was a carryover because of Bruce Boudreau. But that Game 7 that was looming over their heads, that was still kind of looming. Like, oh, man, please tell me it's not going to follow us. And sure enough, it didn't. Because the Ducks managed to survive, win Game 7, go to the Western Conference Finals.
Well, that's the thing is, especially in sports, superstitions are a big thing.
They are. And if you break that, it'll be good. And also, not only that, too, if the Minnesota Wild wind up facing off who I say they're going to face off and actually beat them being the Chicago Blackhawks, there's nothing but motivation right there to say we just beat the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a really strong feather in their cap. And Brian, like, I agree with you. I mean, Ducks are prime. They're ready. They have the experience. They also have the young players on the team. It's a very complete team that you're a fan of, right? All that being said, though, when it comes to defense and goaltending, defense wins championships, and I don't think it's like this. I think in our, quasi, our KFAB scenarios, kayfabe. I always say fab. Kayfabe scenarios. It's like here because Dubnyk I'm really impressed with. I think he's the most improved goaltender, and the path that he's taken to get here and work hard and not be denied because he was told he was never going to make it. And I love guys that are told that they're never going to make it, and they're like, oh, yeah, you want to bet? Watch this.
And I'm not disagreeing there. I'm just saying, but the track record Bruce Boudreau has, the talent on the team is there. It's there. There's no doubt about it. I just don't like the track record of Bruce Boudreau. I think the Anaheim is the team to beat in the West overall. If you look at roster top to bottom, Anaheim is the team to beat.
Well, that's exactly the truth because that's why Anaheim goes to the Western Conference Finals. The only reason Minnesota winds up winning a cup in the first place is because they have to go through Anaheim. It's not because they beat the Blackhawks only. It's because they had to face Anaheim.
I mean, they
had to go through them.
I've seen Minnesota beat the Blackhawks in the playoffs. I've seen them beat the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They just get to a point and they just stop.
Well, the stories are going to be interesting because the way we have it out, you have them facing Toronto. You have the Ducks facing Toronto. That would be crazy. You have very highly offensive teams, but you got one that has a lot more veterans on the team than rookies on the other side. And the Freddie Anderson versus Johnny Gibson thing, that's a great matchup right there for people to think about. Former tandem teammates, too, to go along with it. And, even the story that Rob says, Tampa Bay Lightning trying to get back to that former glory that they kind of lost this past season, get all the way back to Stanley Cup Finals to face off with a team like the Anaheim Ducks who want to also get back their former glory. It would be great, But anyway, plenty of stories to be told. The season is right around the corner, and stories will be told, blood will be shed, and there will be only one team left standing out of 31 at the end of the year, holding up Lord Stanley's hardware. Who teams will that be? We'll have to wait and see. It's time for last call, folks, as we say goodbye here on the Hockey Happy Hour. First, I want to tell you about the BMW of Atlantic City. If you want to get in touch with them, give them a call at 609-568-9200, and they're online at www.bmwatlanticcity.com. And don't forget about the Soap Stash, the new soap standard. Treat your skin with the only soap you'll need. You can call them at 844-890-3197, or visit them on the web at www.soapstash.com, or hit them up on Messenger at Soapstash LLC to place your order. This has been the Hockey Happy Hour on A2DRadio.com. Matt Sensudi, Brian Darkwing Daly, Rob Broken One Povia. We will see you next week on A2DRadio.com.